The first thing I was aware of was my bladder screaming for mercy. I cracked my eyes open, a groan already forming in my throat, ready to stumble to the bathroom. But then my brain caught up with my eyes. This wasn't my bedroom. I was lying in a ridiculously ornate four-poster bed, with some kind of gold-threaded canopy overhead. The mattress, or whatever it was covered in a fur so soft it felt like sleeping on a cloud. What the hell? I shot up like a spring, overdoing it so completely that I smashed right through the silk canopy and found myself floating in midair. What the actual hell? I flailed, windmill-ing my arms and legs like a cartoon character, but I wasn't falling. I wasn't flying either. I just kind of drifted like a feather in a breeze before gently settling back on a bed. Okay, this is one hell of a realistic dream, I muttered, pinching my own cheek. The sharp sting that followed told me this was no dream. A frantic scuttling of footsteps sounded from outside, followed by two sharp raps on the door. Ascendant, are you awake? The disciple on watch sensed a fluctuation of ether from your chambers. I froze, completely baffled. Ascendant? Who? Me? I looked down at myself. I was wearing some kind of flowing, silvery robe tied at the waist with a jade belt. On my feet were embroidered boots that looked like they belonged on a movie set. I was dressed like a character straight out of a high fantasy epic. The person outside, getting no response, spoke again, their voice even more reverent. Ascendant, has your meditation gone awry? Shall this disciple? Don't come in, I yelled on pure instinct. The voice that came out wasn't my own. It was a deep, resonant baritone, at least 10 times more powerful than my usual voice, and it made the windows rattle in their frames. The world outside my door went dead silent. I swallowed hard, cautiously climbing off the bed. I tiptoed over to a polished bronze mirror hanging on the wall and stared. The man staring back was in his early 20s, with sharp eyebrows, intense eyes, and a jawline that could cut glass. A natural smirk played on his lips, giving him a roguish, drop-dead, gorgeous look. Who is that? I whispered, touching my face. The man in the mirror did the same. The voice from outside piped up again, hesitant this time. Ascendant, a messenger from Ethelgard has arrived. They say an ancient ruin has been discovered. All the great orders are gathering, and they wish to request your presence. Not going, I blurted out. This one is entering deep seclusion. Yes, Ascendant. I will turn them away immediately. As the footsteps faded, I let out a long breath and collapsed back on a bed. That's when I noticed a glowing crystal scroll resting on the nightstand. I picked it up. The moment my fingers touched it, the crystal flared with light, and a message flowed directly into my mind. To the Genesis Ascendant. The 1,000-year calamity is upon us. The celestial realms may face annihilation. My old friend, come to the order of the celestial blade at once. Elias. My hand trembled, and the crystal scroll clattered to the floor. It all clicked into place. I'd been transported to another world. And not just as some random guy. I was the freaking Genesis Ascendant. You have got to be kidding me, I mumbled. Just then, a warm sensation bloomed in my gut. I focused inward, and I was met with an incredible sight. A vast, churning ocean of pure energy flowing through my veins. It was like a single ant suddenly being given control of the Pacific Ocean. Curious, I gave a casual wave of my hand. A flash of golden light shot out, and the wall across the room vanished without a sound, revealing a breathtaking panorama of swirling clouds and distant, jagged mountains. Holy crap, I whispered, my eyes wide. Am I invincible? 3 days later, I'd finally come to terms with my new reality. Under the cover of darkness, I snuck out of the so-called Sanctum of Genesis. Playing the part of an all-powerful ancient being was exhausting. If my new disciples found out their revered ascendant was actually an imposter, they'd probably tear me limb from limb. First things first, figure out how this world actually works, I decided. I'd change into a simple tunic, tied my long hair back, and pocketed a jade medallion I'd swiped from the sanctum. Then, I strolled down a mountain path like I owned the place. I quickly discovered I didn't even need to walk. A single thought sent me gliding forward, covering huge distances without any effort. I ran into a few monstrous-looking beasts along the way, but they took one look at me, yelped, and fled as if their tails were on fire, terrified by the sheer force of the aura I was unconsciously projecting. Guess this ascendant title isn't just for show, I mused, feeling a little better about my situation. As I walked, the sound of desperate crying reached my ears. I frowned, and with a flicker of thought, I was there. A group of men in matching uniforms were surrounding a small farmhouse. One of them, a brute with a face like a bulldog, was holding a terrified teenage girl by the arm. An old couple, probably her parents, were on their knees, begging. "Adept Ross, please, let our daughter go. We already paid this year's tribute," the old man pleaded. The man named Ross sneered. "You pay, but it wasn't enough. The Azure Guard is hosting a tournament, and we need servers. This one's pretty enough. It's her good fortune to be chosen to pour tea for her betters." I saw red. This was straight-up kidnapping. "Stop," I boomed, stepping out from behind a tree. The goons froze, their eyes raking over my simple clothes. One of them snorted. "Who's this hedge mage? You got a death wish, telling the Azure Guard what to do." For a second, I felt a pang of fear. Then I remembered I was supposedly the Genesis Ascendant. Why should I be afraid of these small fry thugs? "I'll give you to the count of 3, I said, crossing my arms and letting that natural smirk take over. "Let the girl go and get lost." "You're asking for it," Ross yelled, lunging forward, his palm glowing with a sickly green light. I raised a hand to block on pure instinct. Boom! Ross flew backward as if hit by a truck, smashing through a dozen trees before finally coming to a stop in a crumpled heap. A spray of blood arced beautifully through the air. The clearing fell into an eerie silence. Even I was shocked. I barely even tried. The other thugs turned pale. One of them stammered, "Master, forgive us. We'll leave right now." They scrambled to pick up their unconscious leader and fled into the woods. The old couple, dragging their daughter with them, fell to their knees before me. "Thank you, Adept, for saving our lives." "Hey, no, get up," I said, helping them to their feet. "It was nothing." I thought for a moment, then pulled a few glowing mana crystals from the pouch on my belt where I'd found them earlier. "Take these. Find a new place to live, somewhere far away from here." I left them amidst a chorus of tearful thanks, a warm feeling spreading through my chest. Being a hero was actually pretty cool. I didn't notice the middle-aged man with a long sword strapped to his back watching my retreating figure from a distant ridge, a thoughtful expression on his face. I was humming to myself, walking through a valley, when I got the distinct feeling I was being followed. "You can come out now," I said without turning around. "Aren't you tired after trailing me all this way?" A skinny old man shuffled out from behind a cluster of trees, rubbing his hands together with a sycophantic grin. "My, what sharp senses you have, friend. The name's Pete. Just a humble rogue adept." I sized him up. He was short and wiry, dressed in patched-up robes with a grimy-looking gourd tied to his belt. His face was a road map of wrinkles, all crinkled into a smile that looked about as trustworthy as a rattlesnake. "What do you want?" Pete chuckled. "That was some fancy work back there, friend. I was thinking, maybe we could do a little business." "What kind of business?" "You seem new to these parts. I've been around Ethelgard for decades. I know everything, and I know everyone. For a few mana crystals, I could be your guide. What do you say?" I laughed. "Are you trying to scam me?" "Never." Pete waved his hands frantically, though his shifty eyes were darting all over the place. "Just looking to make friends with a powerful adept like yourself." I actually did need a guide, so I nodded. "Fine. 1 crystal a day." Pete's eyes lit up. "Deal." We set off together. True to his word, Pete was a walking encyclopedia of local gossip. "That's Azure Guard territory, bunch of bullies. That's the Alchemist Guild. They sell snake oil. And that mountain over there is home to an old goblin who eats travelers." Just as he was speaking, 5 figures in black robes dropped from the trees surrounding us. Their leader sneered, "Pete, found another rich fool for us." I raised an eyebrow at the old man. "Care to explain?" Pete coughed awkwardly. "Oh, well, friend, you see, a man's got to eat. You set me up?" I laughed, shaking my head in disbelief. The black-robed men closed in. "Kid, hand over everything you've got, and we'll make it quick." I sighed and turned to Pete. "You might want to step back. Don't want you getting splashed." Pete had barely taken 2 steps before I gave another lazy wave of my hand. Thwomp, 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 thwomp. All 5 robbers were neatly embedded in the cliff face 100 yards away, their bodies forming a perfect five-pointed star. Pete's knees gave out, and he dropped to the ground. And Master, please spare me. I was blind. I didn't know I was in the presence of greatness. I grabbed him by the collar and hauled him to his feet. Calling me Master now, are we? Your power is boundless. I'll do anything. I'll be your loyal servant. Tears were streaming down his face. An idea struck me. I let him go. Fine, I could use a gopher. What if you ever try another stunt like that? I casually pointed a finger at a distant mountain peak. With a low rumble, the top half of the mountain crumbled into dust. Pete stared, his jaw hanging open, and promptly wet himself. Never, never again. If you tell me to go east, I won't even glance west. And that's how I got my first follower. We continued toward Ethelgard, with Pete trotting ahead of me, more attentive than a butler. Master, Ethelgard is buzzing right now, he babbled. They found some ancient ruin. Every major order has sent people to try and find some treasure. I remember the message on the crystal scroll. Has the Order of the Celestial Blade shown up? Pete blinked. You know people from the Celestial Blade? Master, they're one of the top orders in the world. Less questions, more walking, I said, giving him a light kick. He rubbed his backside, still grinning. Yes, of course. I heard an elder from the order arrived a few days ago. I think his name was Elias. My eyes lit up. It had to be the same guy. Let's go. To Ethelgard. The city was even more impressive than I'd imagined. The walls were hundreds of feet high, and the main gate was a chaotic swirl of merchants, robed adepts, and common folk. Pete pulled out 2 jade tokens. Entry permits, Master. I came prepared. But when the guard at the gate checked the permits, his eyes fell on the jade medallion hanging from my belt. His face instantly changed. Master Adept, he said, his voice laced with awe. Your medallion. My stomach clenched. Was I about to be exposed? The guard bowed deeply. Honored guests, such as yourself, have a private entrance. Please, right this way. Pete watched, dumbfounded, as I was escorted onto a red carpet, with guards clearing a path for me. He scurried to catch up. Master, he whispered, what in the world is that medallion? I looked down at it. 2 ancient runes were carved into the jade, surrounded by intricate patterns. I finally got it. This wasn't just jewelry. It was a VIP pass. Quit gawking. Let's find an inn. We had just settled into a room when a commotion erupted outside. Pete peeked out the window, and his face went white. Master, bad news. The Azure Guard. They're here. I walked to the window. A dozen Azure Guard members stood in the street below, led by a white-bearded old man whose aura felt significantly stronger than the others. Which adept saw fit to injure a disciple of my Azure Guard? Please, show yourself, the old man's voice boomed, silencing the entire street. Pete was shaking. That's Elder Wallace, the head of the Azure Guard. He's a master-level adept. Master, maybe we should use the back door. I rolled my eyes, pushed open the window, and leaped down, landing softly a few yards in front of Wallace. I'm the one who taught them a lesson. You got a problem with that? Wallace studied me, his brow furrowed. I don't recognize you, friend. Which order do you belong to? And why did you attack my men? They were kidnapping a young girl. They deserved it, I said, crossing my arms. And if you don't like it, I'll teach you a lesson too. A collective gasp went through the crowd. No one had spoken to the head of the Azure Guard like that in decades. Wallace's face twisted from anger into a cold smile. Excellent. It seems I must test the skills of this esteemed adept myself. He slapped a gourd at his waist, and 7 streaks of green light shot out, morphing into 7 sharp blades that formed a deadly vortex and shot toward me. I didn't move an inch. Just as the blades were about to hit, clink, clink, clink. With a series of sharp cracks, all 7 blades shattered into pieces and fell harmlessly to the ground. Wallace coughed up a mouthful of blood. His personal artifacts had been destroyed, the backlash causing him serious injury. Who are you? He stammered, staring at me in terror. I scratched my head. If I said I was the Genesis Ascendant, would you believe me? Wallace froze. Then the color drained from his face, and he dropped to his knees. I did not know the Ascendant himself had graced us with his presence. This lowly one deserves death for my transgression. The entire street followed his lead, a wave of kneeling bodies spreading through the crowd. Everyone was trembling. I was stunned. Holy hell, this title was a really big deal. Pete came scrambling out of the inn, and threw himself at my feet. Ascendant, forgive me. I was a blind fool. I sighed. Everyone get up. This one is merely traveling the mortal realm and prefers to keep a low profile. Wallace shakily got to his feet. Ascendant, your arrival in Ethelgard is the highest honor. The City Lord's manor has been prepared for you. No need. I'm staying here, I said with a wave. But there is something I need to ask you. Where's the Order of the Celestial Blade staying? With Wallace himself as a guide, I was led to the Order's temporary residence, a quiet estate on the west side of the city. Along the way, he groveled, blaming the dead thug Ross for all the Azure Guards bullying and promising to discipline his men. I didn't bother calling him on his lies, just gave him a few stern warnings. 2 disciples of the Order stood guard at the estate's gate. Who goes there? Before Wallace could speak, I flashed my medallion. The disciples' eyes widened in shock. One of them took off running inside, while the other dropped to one knee. Forgive me, Founder. This disciple deserves death for failing to recognize you. I blinked. Founder? What was that about? A moment later, an old man with a youthful face and a flowing white beard rushed out of the estate. When he saw me, his beard trembled with emotion. Brother, it really is you. 1,000 years, and you haven't aged a day. Playing along, I clasped my hands together. Elias, it's been a while. Brother? Tears welled in Elias's eyes as he grabbed my hand and pulled me inside. Kulme, we have urgent matters to discuss. Once we were in a private chamber, Elias cast a soundproofing ward and let out a long sigh. Brother, when you vanished after sealing the maw, we all thought you had fallen. I never imagined. A thought sparked in my mind. Wait, you're saying that I disappeared while sealing the maw? Elias looked at me, confused. Don't you remember, brother? 1,000 years ago, the maw erupted. You went into its core alone, using the art of Genesis to suppress the demonic ether. After that, you were gone. My head was spinning. What if this wasn't just a case of soul swapping? What if I was the original Ascendant, thrown 1,000 years into the future? Then where did the old me go? Elias continued. Now, the maw shows signs of stirring once more. The Orders are powerless against it. Your return. It must be fate. I managed a dry laugh. About that, this one's power has not yet fully recovered. It matters not, Elias said, his face full of confidence. With your talent, you'll be back at your peak within 3 months. I screamed internally. I didn't even know how to train. Just then, a frantic bell began to toll outside. Elias's face paled. That's the demonic alarm. We rushed out of the room. The sky over Ethelgard was choked with black clouds. In the distance, a pillar of pure darkness shot into the heavens, and I could faintly hear horrifying screams carried on the wind. Elias's face was grim. The maw has erupted ahead of schedule. Brother, we must. As I stared at that pillar of darkness, the ocean of ether inside me began to churn on its own. A strange sense of familiarity washed over me. I felt like something inside that dark abyss was calling to me. Let's go check it out, I said, grabbing Elias by the arm. With a flicker of thought, we vanished. When Pete rushed out, all he saw was the faint shimmer of where we had been. He stomped his foot in frustration. Ascendant, wait for me. In the distance, the demonic energy roiled, brewing a storm that would engulf the entire world. And I, Jax Miller, was flying straight into the heart of it, the gears of destiny finally beginning to turn. I was holding Elias by the scruff of his neck, carrying him through the sky like a sack of potatoes. The wind whipped past us, contorting his ancient face and sending his beard flying. Be our brother a little slower, please, he managed to choke out. Huh, what was that? Can't hear you over the wind. I yelled, and then, for good measure, I sped up. Elias looked like he was about to cry. 1,000 years, and his revered brother had apparently become a complete lunatic. The pillar of black energy grew closer, and the air filled with the stench of decay. I finally stopped, and we hovered in midair. So, Elias, that big black hole in the ground, that's the maw? I asked, pointing at a crater easily hundreds of yards across. Elias smoothed his wind-blasted robes, panting. Indeed, a millennium ago, you sealed it with your boundless power. Now, that seal is weakening, and the demonic ether is leaking out. I squinted. Hundreds of adepts were gathered around the crater's edge, their artifacts glowing as they worked together to cast a containment spell. But the black pillar was still expanding, and their magical barrier was flickering like a dying candle. Doesn't look like they're holding up too well, I observed. As if on cue, the dark pillar pulsed violently, sending out a tidal wave of demonic energy. Dozens of adepts on the perimeter were caught in the blast. Their eyes instantly turned blood red, and they began attacking their comrades. They've been corrupted. Elias cried out in horror. Brother, you have to do something. I just stared at him blankly. Like what? Use the art of Genesis. The art of O, right? I slapped my forehead, remembering the ocean of power inside me. I tried to focus it, to pull it from my core and push it out through my hand. A beam of pure golden light erupted from my palm. It was like a miniature sun, and everywhere it touched, the demonic energy evaporated like snow in July. The corrupted adepts collapsed, the black mist hissing as it left their bodies. The entire battlefield fell silent. Every single adept was staring up at me, their mouths hanging open. Elias's beard trembled with excitement. Your power is as magnificent as ever, brother. Even I was stunned. Was I really that strong? On the ground, a middle-aged man in ornate purple robes flew up toward us and bowed deeply. This humble one is the master of the Azure Guard, Wallace. I greet the Genesis Ascendant. Thank you for saving us. That broke the spell. The rest of the adepts snapped out of their shock and dropped to their knees in unison. We greet the Genesis Ascendant. All right, everybody up, I said with a wave. I turned back to Elias. So how do we patch this seal? Before he could answer, a world-shaking roar erupted from the depths of the maw. The ground trembled violently. A new pillar of darkness, 10 times thicker than the first, shot into the sky. Within it, a colossal shadow was slowly rising. No, the Archfiend is awake. Elias's face was ashen. I narrowed my eyes. The shadow solidified, revealing a monster with 3 heads, 6 arms, and leathery wings. Its 6 eyes, like crimson lanterns, locked onto me. Genesis Ascendant. Its voice echoed, a sound like a million souls screaming at once. We meet again. Today, I will have my revenge for 1,000 years of imprisonment. I swallowed hard and turned to Elias. Did I beat this guy up before? Elias stomped his foot in the air, frantic. Brother, this is not the time for jokes. A millennium ago, you sealed it in the deepest level of the maw. Now that it's broken free, it's stronger than ever. The Archfiend swung its 6 arms, and 6 bolts of black lightning shot toward me. The adepts on the ground scattered in panic. On instinct, I threw up a hand. A golden barrier materialized in front of me, absorbing the lightning bolts. But the sheer force of the impact still sent Elias and me flying backward for hundreds of feet. Okay, that's interesting, I said, shaking out my tingling arm. A thrill of excitement shot through me. I found myself actually enjoying this, as if some long-dormant part of me was waking up. Elias, stand back, I said, cracking my neck. Let me catch up with an old friend. Elias retreated quickly. Be careful, brother. I grinned, then teleported directly in front of the Archfiend and threw a punch. Crack! My fist connected solidly with its central head, snapping it back. But it recovered instantly, its 6 arms blurring into a storm of attacks. We clashed in midair, moving so fast we were just streaks of gold and black light. The shockwaves from our blows shattered the clouds for miles in every direction. On the ground, the other adepts could only watch in stunned silence. Is that the true power of the Genesis Ascendant? Wallace murmured. Elias stroked his beard and smiled. He's not even trying yet. He was right. The tide of the battle suddenly shifted. I intentionally left an opening. The Archfiend, sensing victory, lunged with all 6 arms. I teleported behind it, clasped my hands together, and summoned a brilliant blade of golden light from the heavens. It descended like the wrath of a god, striking the Archfiend squarely in the back. GRAH! It shrieked in agony as black blood erupted from all 3 of its mouths. Its massive body plummeted back toward the maw. I pressed my advantage, my hands weaving through a series of complex gestures. A gigantic golden rune materialized in the sky above the crater. Seal, The rune descended, pressing down on the maw. The pillar of darkness shrank until it vanished completely. The Archfiend's roars faded into the depths until they were gone. I let out a long breath and floated down to the ground. The moment my feet touched the earth, my legs felt like jelly. That fight had used up more than half my energy. Elias rushed to my side. "Brother, are you all right?" "Fine. Just a little tired," I said, forcing myself to stand straight. The adepts knelt once more. The Ascendant's power is supreme. I was about to speak when a sudden heat flared in my chest. I looked down. The jade medallion at my waist was glowing, getting hotter and hotter. "What's this?" Elias's face lit up. "Brother, the medallion is reacting. Your memories, they must be returning." I stared at him, confused. "What memories?" "You sealed a part of your memory within the medallion before you disappeared, as a failsafe for this very situation." Before I could process that, the medallion exploded in a flash of blinding light that completely enveloped me. The world went black, and a torrent of images, a lifetime of memories, flooded my mind. I felt like I'd just woken up from the longest dream of my life. In the dream, I was the true Genesis Ascendant. I had trained for 1,000 years, reaching the pinnacle of power. To protect the world, I had created the art of Genesis and sealed the Archfiend in the maw. But at the last moment, the fiend had unleashed a final, desperate attack, tearing a hole in space-time and hurling me into the chaotic void between worlds. Holy! I shot upright, my eyes flying open. I was lying on a jade bed. Elias and several other imposing-looking elders were gathered around me. "Brother, you're awake," Elias said, his voice filled with relief. I sat up, my mind reeling. It felt like an entire encyclopedia. Training manuals, battle tactics, secret histories of the world had been downloaded directly into my brain. The memories felt familiar. They felt like mine. "I remember now," I whispered. "The Great War 1,000 years ago." The other elders in the room visibly relaxed. A red-faced man with a booming voice stepped forward. "Ascendant, your recovery is a blessing for all the realms. I am Marshal Vulcan, Master of the Crimson Order." A woman in white robes bowed gracefully. "Matron Frost of the Glacial Spire greets the Ascendant." I realized I was in a room with the leaders of every major faction. Drawing on my newfound memories, I adopted a regal posture and gave them a slight nod. "You have my thanks," Elias explained. "You were unconscious for 3 days, brother. Word of your return spread quickly. Though the maw is temporarily sealed, demonic ether continues to seep out. If this continues..." I held up a hand. "I understand." I could feel the ether within me rapidly replenishing itself, my true power returning. The seal on the maw requires 7 ancient artifacts to act as anchors. Back then, I was only able to find 5. That is why the seal was incomplete. The leaders exchanged uneasy glances. Marshal Vulcan asked hesitantly, "Ascendant, what do you propose?" "I must find the remaining 2 artifacts," I announced, swinging my legs off the bed. "But before I leave, there is one matter to attend to." I walked to the window, pushed it open, and called out, "Pete, stop hiding and get in here." A moment later, Pete emerged from behind a corner, an embarrassed grin on his face. He trotted into the room. "Ascendant, your perception is truly divine. My meager stealth techniques." "Save the flattery." I cut him off. "Tell me, was your family name once Milo?" Pete froze, a look of pure shock on his face. "Ascendant, how did you know?" "My ancestors were indeed of the House of Milo, before our family fell on hard times." "I knew it." I nodded, then pulled a black, metallic token from the space within my medallion and tossed it to him. "This belonged to your ancestors. It's time it was returned." Pete caught the token. An ancient, stylized M was carved on its surface. The moment his skin touched it, the token flared with black light and dissolved into his forehead. "Act!" he cried out, clutching his head as his body was racked with power. His personal energy skyrocketed, jumping from a novice level all the way to a master adept. Everyone in the room stared in astonishment. "A bloodline awakening," Elias whispered. I smiled. The old man's ancestors were master artificers, the greatest engineers the world has ever known. The House of Milo gave much to help seal the maw the first time, but their line faded into obscurity. I never thought I'd find their last descendant. Pete, or rather Milo, slowly stood up. His entire demeanor had changed. The shifty, cowardly look was gone, replaced by sharp, intelligent focus. "Thank you, Ascendant, for reawakening my bloodline," he said, bowing deeply. "The legacy of House Milo is restored. I pledge my life to your cause. We will seal them all once and for all." I nodded, satisfied. There is no time to waste. I will depart immediately to find the artifacts. Elias, you will remain here and coordinate the orders to monitor the maw. Milo, you're with me. Elias hesitated. Brother, the other two artifacts. Their locations are... I know, I said, a flicker of something complex in my eyes. One is in the Dragon's Trench. The other is in the underworld. A collective gasp went through the room. Both were notoriously dangerous locations, especially the underworld, a realm where the living were not welcome. But I just shrugged. It's been 1,000 years. I could use a good walk. I clapped Milo on the shoulder. Get your tools ready, old friend. We're going to see some dragons. Milo bowed, his eyes shining with pure adoration. That night, I stood in the courtyard, staring at the stars. The restored memories clarified who I was, but they also raised more questions. Does something trouble you, Ascendant? Milo had appeared silently behind me. I shook my head, just thinking that this journey won't be a quiet one. Milo smiled. With you leading the way, Ascendant, no demon or monster stands a chance. I glanced at him. You're a lot more eloquent than you used to be. The bloodline changes the mind as well as the body, he said, touching the spot on his forehead where the token had vanished. Ascendant, when do we leave? At dawn, I replied, heading back to my room. Tonight, I need to reacquaint myself with the art of Genesis. The memories are back, but the techniques feel rusty. Back in my room, I sat cross-legged and began to meditate, sorting through the vast library of techniques in my mind. As I practiced, the ether in my body flowed like a river returning to the sea, growing purer and more potent with every breath. Suddenly, a prickle of awareness ran down my spine. I opened my eyes and looked toward the window. You've been watching for a while. Why not show yourself? A soft laugh echoed from the darkness, and a graceful figure drifted into the room. It was a stunning woman dressed in black silk, with a crimson mark on her forehead. Her eyes seemed to pull you in, promising ecstasy and ruin. 1,000 years, Ascendant, and you're as sharp as ever, she purred, her voice a silken caress. I narrowed my eyes. Lilith, the Shadow Queen. I'm surprised you're still alive. Lilith giggled, covering her mouth with a delicate hand. If the great Ascendant can survive, how could this humble servant dare to pass on? She glided closer. I heard you were seeking artifacts to seal them all. I've come to offer my assistance. Oh, I remained perfectly still. Since when did the Shadow Realms care about the fate of the mortal world? A strange light flickered in her eyes. You misunderstand, Ascendant. If the true Lord of the Maw rises, the first to be consumed will be us. It devours all life, without regard for good or evil. I considered her words for a moment. What kind of partnership did you have in mind? I know where the second artifact is, she whispered. It is not in the underworld. It is in the deepest heart of the Maw. My eyes hardened. What did you say? During the Great War, the Archfiend stole the final artifact, the Mirror of Fates, and has kept it hidden in its lair ever since, she explained. If you trust me, Ascendant, we could work together. Before she could finish, I unleashed a blast of golden light, trapping her. Her form wavered and dissolved into a wisp of black smoke, leaving only her laughter behind. So cautious. As expected, meet me in God's Fall Valley in 3 days, Ascendant. Don't be late. I snorted, playing games. But I knew, deep down, that she might be telling the truth. If the final artifact really was in the Maw, this was going to be far more complicated than I thought. I looked out at the moon. Looks like I'll have to pay an old friend a visit, after all. As the sky began to lighten, Milo and I left Ethelgard. Ascendant, where are we headed? Milo asked. He was dressed in practical black gear, a large wooden chest filled with mechanical contraptions strapped to his back. The Eastern Sea, I said, summoning a small, stable cloud. We stepped onto it and shot into the sky. To the Dragon's Trench. Milo looked worried. The dragon clans are notoriously reclusive, approaching them unannounced. Don't worry, I grinned. The Dragon King and I go way back. The cloud was impossibly fast. In less than half a day, we were hovering over the vast, sparkling expanse of the Eastern Sea. I performed a series of gestures, and the water below us parted, creating a dry tunnel leading straight to the ocean floor. We descended, the water forming transparent walls on either side, filled with curious sea creatures. Thousands of feet down, a breathtaking palace made of shimmering crystal came into view. Above the gate, glowing letters spelled out, Eastern SEA Dragon Palace. 2 rows of shrimp soldiers and crab generals stood guard. Seeing us, they raised their weapons. Who goes there? I held up my medallion. The Genesis Ascendant, here to visit my old friend, the Dragon King. The guard started in shock. One of them scurried into the palace. Moments later, the massive gates swung open, and a middle-aged man in imperial robes with a golden crown on his head strode out. It was the Dragon King himself. Huh, Genesis. It's been 1,000 years. I knew you'd turn up eventually. His voice boomed like thunder. He swept me into a bone-crushing hug. I wheezed, my eyes bulging. Easy there, you old sea serpent. Let go. He released me, looking me up and down. I heard you lost your memories. All back now. Mostly, I said, rubbing my shoulder. I'm here on business this time. The Dragon King waved a massive hand. We'll talk inside. My son returned from the Western Sea today. You've arrived just in time for the feast. Inside the palace, long tables were laden with exotic delicacies, celestial fruits, and divine wines I'd only read about. Milo and I were seated as guests of honor at the king's right hand. After a few rounds of drinks, I got to the point. Old friend, I need to borrow your clan's sacred treasure, the World Anchor's staff. The Dragon King's smile tightened. About that. What? Don't want to part with it. I raised an eyebrow. Don't worry, I'll give it back. He sighed. It's not that I won't lend it to you. It's that it was stolen 100 years ago. What? I nearly jumped out of my seat. How do you lose the most powerful artifact in your entire kingdom? He looked ashamed. A century ago, a monkey demon broke into the palace and simply took it. My entire clan went after him, but we couldn't get it back. I put my head in my hands. Wait a second. This monkey, hairy face, loud mouth, uses an iron staff, calls himself the Great Sage, equal to heaven. The Dragon King looked surprised. You know of him? My mouth twitched. This wasn't just some monkey demon. This was the freaking Monkey King. Was I in some bizarro fantasy world that had mashed up mythologies? Where is he now? Last I heard, he was sealed by the Buddha himself under the 5-finger peaks, the king said helplessly. The monkey is absurdly powerful. Not even the celestial court could handle him. I thought for a moment, then broke into a grin. This could be interesting. Old friend, pack me a gift basket. I'm going to pay a visit to this great sage. As we left the Dragon Palace, Milo couldn't help but ask, Ascendant, is this monkey truly that powerful? I gave him a mysterious smile. More powerful than you can possibly imagine. But I patted the medallion at my waist. I have something he wants. We flew west, straight for the 5-finger peaks. Along the way, I told Milo the story of the Monkey King's rampage through the heavens. He listened, utterly flabbergasted. If we could make an ally of this monkey, Milo mused, he would be a tremendous help. I just smiled. I had other plans. If the Monkey King existed in this world, who else did? This reality was far stranger than the one in my recovered memories. As we flew, a massive mountain range shaped like a giant hand appeared on the horizon. At its base, I could see a furry head sticking out of the rock and hear a distant voice yelling curses. Come on, you old charlatan. Let your old master's son, Wukong, out of here. I brought her cloud down and walked closer. The monkey head spotted me and bared its fangs. What are you looking at, little priest? I calmly pulled a flask of celestial wine, a gift from the Dragon King, from my pouch and uncorked it. The rich aroma filled the air. The Monkey King's nose twitched and his eyes lit up. Hey, that's the good stuff. I sat down on the ground and poured 2 cups. Great sage, I've heard much about you. I came to pay my respects. He eyed me suspiciously. You know who I am? Who doesn't know the name of the Great Sage, equal to heaven? I raised my cup. A toast. After 1 cup, The Monkey King's attitude softened considerably. You're an interesting one, little priest. So what do you want from me? I got straight to the point. I've come to ask for the return of the World Anchor staff. His face instantly soured. Bah, that's my compliant golden-hooped rod. Why should I give it back? What if I could get you out of here? I asked with a smile. The Monkey King stared, then laughed. With what? Your good looks. The Buddha's seal is absolute. Not even the Jade Emperor could break it. Without a word, I stood up, walked to the mountain, and placed my hand on the rock. Channeling the art of Genesis, I poured my power into it. A golden light shone from my palm, and the mountain began to tremble. The Monkey King's eyes went wide. You can actually do it? Sweat beaded on my forehead. This seal was no joke. I pushed harder, my power surging, and the golden light intensified. The mountain shook violently. Open! With a final roar, cracks spread across the five-finger peaks, and the entire mountain range crumbled into dust. A golden streak shot out from the rubble, did a flip in the air, and landed right in front of me. It was a golden-furred monkey, clad in chainmail armor, wearing a phoenix feather cap, and holding an iron staff as thick as a tree trunk. It was the Monkey King, Sun Wukong, in the flesh. Ha ha! I'm free, he roared, his laughter shaking the heavens. When he was done, he turned to me and bowed. Thank you, friend. I, Sun Wukong, am in your debt. I smiled. It was nothing, great sage. Now about that staff. He scratched his head. This old staff and I have been through a lot. I really can't part with it. But his eyes glinted. I could do one favor for you as payment. How about it? I thought for a moment. I need to retrieve an item from the underworld. Would you be willing to accompany me? The underworld? The Monkey King's interest was piqued. Excellent. I have a score to settle with that old fool, Lord Yama. And just like that, my team gained a powerhouse. The three of us summoned a cloud and flew straight for the land of the dead. On the way, the Monkey King asked, So, what are you getting from the underworld? The Mirror of Fates, I replied. The last artifact needed to seal the maw. Hearing this, a strange expression crossed the Monkey King's face. The Mirror of Fates? Isn't that being guarded by the great Bodhisattva, the Warden of Souls? My heart skipped a beat. The Warden of Souls? This was getting more and more complicated. The path to the underworld was a bleak road, chilled by an unnatural wind. The three of us passed through the Ghost Gate and set foot upon the shadowy trail. On either side, fields of blood-red spider lilies bloomed, and the ghostly shapes of lost souls drifted between them. I know this place, the Monkey King declared, hoisting his staff onto his shoulder. Last time I was here, I rewrote the book of life and death. Milo whispered to me, Ascendant, is he reliable? I just smiled. A warning bell was ringing in my head. Lilith had said the mirror was in the maw, but the Monkey King said it was with the Warden of Souls. One of them was lying. Up ahead, we came to a river the color of rust, filled with the writhing forms of wailing spirits. The River of Oblivion, the Monkey King said, pointing to a single arch bridge. Yama's palace is just on the other side. An old, hunched woman stood at the head of the bridge, ladling soup for the passing souls. When she saw us, she looked up, her face a web of wrinkles. The living are not welcome in the underworld. I stepped forward. Granny Fate, the Genesis Ascendant requests an audience with Lord Yama. Please allow us to pass. Her cloudy eyes studied me for a long moment, then she smiled. So, it is you, Ascendant. Forgive an old woman. It has been 1,000 years. She stepped aside. Lord Yama knows you are here. He awaits you in his hall. After crossing the bridge, we came to a grim, imposing palace. 2 guards with the heads of an ox and a horse stood at the entrance. They bowed as we approached. Ascendant, great sage, Lord Yama waits. Inside the great hall, the 10 kings of the underworld stood at attention, with Lord Yama seated on a central throne. He rose as we entered. Ascendant, great sage, your presence honors my realm. I returned the gesture. Lord Yama, we have come on urgent business. We wish to borrow the Mirror of Fates. Yama's face fell. This is difficult. The Monkey King waved his staff impatiently. Spit it out. Are you lending it to us or not? Yama wiped sweat from his brow. Great sage, please. It is not that I am unwilling, but the mirror was taken by the Warden of Souls a century ago. He said he needed it to suppress a great evil. I exchanged a look with the Monkey King. This story was different from Lilith's, but consistent so far. Where is the warden now? I asked. He resides below the 18th level of hell, guarding an ancient beast, Yama explained. The beast has grown restless of late, so the warden remains there personally. An idea began to form in my mind. Can you take us to him? Yama hesitated, then finally nodded. Very well. Oxhead, Horseface, escort our guests to the warden. Led by the two guards, we descended through the levels of hell. The air grew colder and heavier with each level we passed, the screams of the damned echoing all around us. Milo had gone pale and was sticking close behind me. Ascendant, something is wrong, he whispered. The Milo family archives state that below the 18th level is the heart of reincarnation itself. There should be no beast. I nodded slightly. I felt it too. Something was very, very wrong. But we had come this far. Finally, we reached the bottom. But it wasn't the terrifying pit I expected. Instead, we found ourselves in a serene garden surrounding a lotus pond. A kind-faced monk sat meditating in the center of the pond. It was the Warden of Souls. Peace be with you, the warden said, opening his eyes. You have traveled far. What do you seek? I stepped forward and bowed. Warden, I have come for the Mirror of Fates. He smiled gently. The mirror is indeed here. With a wave of his hand, an ancient bronze mirror rose from the water. But do you know its true purpose? To seal them all and save the world, I said firmly. The warden shook his head. The mirror can reveal the past and future. It can even reverse the flow of life and death. In the wrong hands, it could bring about a catastrophe. The Monkey King grumbled. Enough with the sermons, monk. The Ascendant needs it, so hand it over. The warden's smile didn't waver. Great sage, your spirit is as fiery as ever. Very well. He held the mirror out to me. Take it. I reached for it, but a sudden, sharp instinct screamed at me to stop. I jerked my hand back. Wait, you're not the Warden of Souls. The smile on the monk's face twisted into a grotesque leer. A little late to figure that out, don't you think? In an instant, the lotus pond turned into a pool of blood, and thousands of grasping, spectral hands shot out, clawing at us. The warden's form distorted, shifting into a dark-robed man with a chilling, malevolent aura. Malachur, the Shadow King. I recognized him from my recovered memories, a master of illusion and a lord of the Shadow Realms. This is your doing. Malachur cackled. Genesis Ascendant. Our 1,000-year-old rivalry ends today. You dare deceive me. The Monkey King roared, his staff expanding as he swung it at Malachur's head. But the blow passed right through him. He was an illusion. It's useless. You are my 9 hells illusion. Malachur's voice boomed from all around us. And you will never leave. Milo quickly unpacked his chest, deploying several devices that hummed and created a protective barrier around us. Ascendant, be careful. This illusion bends reality. I calmly scanned my surroundings, then smiled. Malachur, you calculated everything, but you missed one crucial detail. Oh, his disembodied voice mocked. And what might that be? The Mirror of Fates really is here, I said, pointing a finger at a specific spot in the blood pool. And it's right there. I fired a beam of golden light. The spot I hit began to boil, and from the depths rose a bronze mirror, identical to the illusion. The real Mirror of Fates. Malachur's voice was filled with rage and disbelief. Impossible. How did you know? I didn't give him time to finish. I lunged for the mirror. Malachur threw everything his illusion had at me, summoning hordes of phantoms to block my path. Get out of my way, I roared, unleashing the full force of the art of Genesis. A wave of pure, sun-bright energy erupted from my body, vaporizing every phantom in its path. I grabbed the mirror. Its surface flared with a blinding white light. The entire illusion began to crumble, and Malachur let out a final, furious scream as his presence dissipated. Genesis Ascendant. The Lord of the Maw will not forgive this. The illusion shattered, and we found ourselves standing on a desolate plain, the gates of the underworld in the distance. The Mirror of Fates rested quietly in my hands. That was close, Milo said, wiping sweat from his brow. Ascendant, how did you see through his disguise? I stowed the mirror away. The real Warden of Souls is a being of profound humility. He would never refer to himself with personal pronouns. The fake gave himself away with his first word. The Monkey King scratched his head. Bah, I never pay attention to details like that. Let's go, I said, my gaze turning north. The maw is growing more unstable by the second. We have to complete the seal. We left the underworld, returning to the mortal realm. The moment we arrived, the medallion at my waist began to vibrate violently. Elias's voice, strained with panic, echoed from it. Brother, disaster. The maw has fully erupted. The orders have suffered heavy losses. The Archfiend is free. My blood ran cold. We're on our way. I was about to teleport when the sky above us was ripped open by a storm of black clouds. A colossal, demonic claw tore through the veil, swiping down at us. Look out! The Monkey King met the claw with his staff, but he was swatted aside like an insect, sent crashing into a distant mountain. Milo and I scrambled back as a monstrous form descended from the clouds. It was the Archfiend's true body. Genesis Ascendant. Its 3 heads bellowed in unison. Our 1,000-year feud ends today. I took a deep breath and summoned the Mirror of Fates. Let's finish this. The Archfiend's true form blotted out the sun. It stood hundreds of feet tall, its 6 arms wielding weapons of pure shadow, its leathery wings stirring up hurricane-force winds. Its 6 crimson eyes burned with a hatred 1,000 years in the making. Ascendant, I don't think I can help much with this one, the Monkey King grunted, pulling himself from the rubble, blood trickling from his mouth. This thing is on another level. Milo was already setting up a massive defensive array. Ascendant, I will try to restrain it. Look for an opening. I shook my head. Both of you fall back. This is between me and him. I stepped forward, meeting the Archfiend's gaze without fear. I sealed you once a millennium ago. I can do it again. It attacked, 6 bolts of black lightning screaming toward me. I held up the Mirror of Fates. Its polished surface caught the bolts and fired them right back. Boom! The Archfiend staggered, roaring in fury. It opened its massive maw and spewed a river of black sludge that dissolved rock and withered plant life on contact. I wove a sign with my hands, channeling the art of Genesis into a massive golden rune that met the vile torrent head-on. The 2 forces clashed, the very fabric of space warping around us. Milo, great sage. I gritted out, sweat pouring down my face. I need time. Milo activated his array. Thousands of chains made of pure energy erupted from the ground, wrapping around the Archfiend's legs. The Monkey King, having recovered slightly, let out a war cry and brought his staff, now the size of a mountain, crashing down on the Archfiend's back. Take that, you ugly beast! The blow staggered the monster, but it retaliated with a backhand that sent the Monkey King flying once more. That was the opening I needed. I changed my hand signs. The Mirror of Fates floated above my head, shooting a beam of pure light into the sky that banished the dark clouds and created a swirling golden vortex. Archfiend, witness the true power of the Genesis protocol. My body erupted in light, growing until I stood as tall as my enemy. We clashed, giant against giant, our battle shattering mountains and boiling seas. We fought for a day and a night. I was nearing my limit, but the Archfiend was just as battered. 3 of its arms were severed, and one of its heads was a pulpy mess. One last shot, I roared, forcing every last drop of my power into the artifacts. The Mirror of Fates and my jade medallion flew together, merging into a single, blindingly brilliant sword of light. Genesis, Demon Slayer. The blade descended. The Archfiend let out a final, defiant roar as its body was cleaved in 2. But just as it was about to disintegrate, its 2 remaining heads twisted into a sickening grin. Genesis, you think this is the end? I am waiting for you. In the heart of the maw. With those final words, its body exploded into a cloud of black dust that scattered on the wind. I shrank back to my normal size and stumbled, caught by the Monkey King and Milo. Ascendant, are you all right? I shook my head, staring into the distance. The Archfiend's last words. I don't think this is over. Just then, streaks of light approached from the horizon. It was Elias, leading the surviving masters of the Great Orders. Brother, he cried, his face alight with joy. The maw is calm. The demonic ether is receding. But I felt no relief. The Archfiend said it was waiting for me in the heart of the maw. Something isn't right. Elias frowned. Brother, what do you mean? I have to go back into the maw, I said, my voice firm. I have to end this once and for all. Everyone stared at me. Milo stepped forward. Ascendant, I will go with you. The Monkey King thumped his chest. Count me in. Elias sighed. If you are determined, brother, then we will follow. I looked at them all, a genuine smile touching my lips. All right, let's go uncover the secrets at the bottom of the world. 3 days later, my strength fully restored. I led the expedition to the entrance of the maw. The air was calm now, though thin tendrils of black mist still seeped from the crater. This will be incredibly dangerous, I told them. If anyone wants to back out, now is the time. No one moved. I nodded, then jumped. The others followed without hesitation. As we fell, I felt the demonic energy growing thicker, but strangely, it wasn't hostile. It felt welcoming. We finally landed at the very bottom. It wasn't the hellscape I expected. We were in a vast, subterranean palace. Floating in the center of the grand hall was a giant, pulsating heart of pure darkness. What is that? Elias whispered in awe. My face was grim. The source heart. The Archfiend was just its puppet. This is the true root of the evil. As if sensing our presence, the heart began to beat faster. A familiar voice echoed through the hall. You have finally come. My other half. I froze. What? A shadowy figure coalesced above the heart. It looked exactly like me, but its form was made of shadow, and its eyes glowed with crimson hatred. 1,000 years, the shadow sneered. And at last, you have returned. The truth hit me like a physical blow. A final, sealed memory broke free in my mind. 1,000 years ago, to gain enough power to seal the maw, I had been forced to do the unthinkable. I had split my own soul. When you sundered yourself, the shadow continued. Your good half became the Genesis Ascendant. Your ambition, your rage, your power. They became me, the source heart. The heroes behind me gasped in horror. The maw is destined to rise again, my dark half declared. And when it does, we will merge. We will become whole. We will become Genesis Prime. I clenched my fists. No, I will never join with you. The shadow laughed. You have no choice. It lunged, a being of pure, unbridled power. At the last second, I held up the mirror of fates. Fates reversed. A beam of white light blasted the shadow, forcing it back. I turned to my friends. Get out of here. I have to seal this place from the inside. Brother, what will happen to you? Elias cried. Don't worry about me. I gave him a final, determined smile. This is what the Genesis Ascendant was born to do. Before they could argue, I unleashed my power, teleporting them all out of the maw. The entire abyss began to shake, and pillars of golden light erupted from the ground, sealing me inside forever. 1 month later, peace had returned to the world. The maw was permanently sealed, its entrance now a tranquil, grassy crater. Elias, Milo, and the Monkey King stood at its edge, paying their respects. They believed I had sacrificed myself. Ascendant, Milo clutched the black token, tears streaming down his face. Suddenly, the token began to glow. A familiar, sarcastic voice echoed in all their minds. What's with the waterworks? I'm not dead, you know. They all looked around, overjoyed. Brother? Ascendant? Where are you? Stuck in here for a while, my voice replied, tinged with amusement. I've sealed the source heart back inside myself, but it's going to take some time to digest it. However, a shimmering, golden projection of me appeared before them. I can still do this. The Monkey King scratched his head. So, are you a good guy or a bad guy now? My projection rolled its eyes. Still a good guy. I just have a really annoying roommate living in my soul now. Elias sighed in relief. Brother, what will you do with the source heart? Purify it bit by bit, my projection shrugged. I've got nothing but time. In the meantime, the world is in your hands. Clean up the messes I left behind. Milo wiped his eyes. Ascendant, when will you return? The projection began to fade. Could be 100 years. Could be 1,000. Don't worry. Once I'm done dealing with this cosmic indigestion, I'll be back. We'll all get a drink. With a final wave, my image dissolved. But they all knew the truth. The Genesis Ascendant was not gone. He was still watching over them, a silent, eternal guardian.